And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today we're talking about Egor Demin and we're talking about the draft buzz around the Chicago Bulls. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Wazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And so we are talking about Egor Demin again here. And so look, according to Joe Cowley, he is saying that the Chicago Bulls have some interest in Egor Demin. And so if you want to read about this, you can go over to Bleacher Nation. This is written by Elias Schuster. And within this article, he's referring to Joe Cowley and what he had to say on his podcast. And so Joe Cowley does write for the Chicago Sun-Times here, but he is talking about that the Chicago Bulls have the number one guy on their radar is going to be Egor Demin here. And so Egor Demin, if you're not familiar with who he is a 6'9" guard out of BYU. So he was a freshman. And look, he has got some incredible length because he's got a 6'10" wingspan. He's 199 pounds there. And I believe he has an 8'9.5" reach as well. And so you're talking about just that wingspan and just the length that you would be getting here with Egor Demin. And so he played point guard for BYU. And I think that a lot of people would say that he's probably the best playmaker in the draft as far as just making plays. And as a passer, this guy is absolutely elite. His scoring totals, 10.6 points per game, 3.9 rebounds a game, 1.2 steals, 5.5 assists a game. 0.4 blocks, 41.2 from the field, but he only shot 69.5 from the free throw line. And he only shot 27.3% from three here. And so within this article, when you click it, it does link to Joe Cowley's podcast. And if you go listen to that, Joe Cowley does say that, hey, you have to take this stuff with a grain of salt because a lot of teams are throwing a lot of stuff out there. And it sounds like what they could be doing is really just trying to throw other teams off for just really what direction that they might go. And so this might be the situation here with the Chicago Bulls because you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, another guard, yes. And on top of that, you know, one thing that I talked about and just really looking at him as a draft prospect, he does a lot of the things that Josh Giddey does. And so, you know, with that being said, look, it's one thing that if the Chicago Bulls are interested in him and they feel like that is a great fit to their playing style, which I 100% agree with. I think that we saw that with Josh Giddey last year. But when you're looking at a player that really played with the ball in his hands, and then you're looking at Josh Giddey, who I think really excels with the ball in his hands. And he even talked about this at the end of the season in that press conference where he said that, look, in the first half of the season, he didn't really want to step on anybody's toes. And so the last half of the season is when Josh Giddey took off. And remember, that's where the Bulls made trades. They traded off Zach LaVine. And then they also, too, really put Josh Giddey more on ball. I think that he took over there. And so if you're bringing in Egor Demin, you're bringing in a guy that essentially, man, he did very well on ball here. And so you would have two guys that similarly do the same thing. You're going into a contract here with Josh Giddey. And so you wonder about the fit. Now, one of the things that was brought up here by Joe Cowley is that, look, the Bulls are really looking to get players that fit what they're trying to do with their system. And really, you know, with this revamped offense, you know, if it fits from a player standpoint, then that is where they're going to go. So it doesn't necessarily mean that would be a center and a forward, which is something that I would like the Bulls to do here. But it looks like that they're looking for, you know, really the best fit and who is going to play or play well in their playing style. And so you would get that here with Demin, who is going to be a playmaker. His shot mechanics look good. even though he did not shoot the ball that well from downtown, which I talked about here. So I think a lot of people really feel like that the upside is something that they're going to bank on with him. And really, I think that they're also banking on the versatility because, like I said before, he was the point guard for BYU. And so if the Bulls were to get him and then you bring back Josh Giddey, which I do anticipate that happening, I think that Josh Giddey naturally is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Now, this is assuming that Demin is going to come in and play some major minutes for you. Look, your team does get longer there with him, Giddey, and then you also have Modest Buzelis there. I know you still have Coby White too. And so I could see it happening there, but man, I think that you're really banking on the fact that he is going to really become a very good off-ball player here and still be able to make these plays for you. And so, also I think another team that has been linked to him is the Brooklyn Nets. Remember, that's the team also that could really go out there and challenge the Bulls as far as putting down an offer sheet here. And so maybe that makes some sense here. But again, you're looking at, I think, the best maybe passer here in the draft. And so he is linked to the Chicago Bulls. And so next, talking a little bit more about the draft buzz here. And so I wanted to talk about another prospect that we have definitely been talking about here, and that's Derik Queen. And it looks like that Derik Queen really didn't test well. And so that's another thing that Joe Cowley talked about. This is really no new news. I've seen this in other places as well. But yes, I guess Derik Queen did not test very well at the NBA Draft Combine. Now, he does still have his individual workouts and things like that. And really, this could play into the hands of what the Chicago Bulls want. My player comparison for him is Elton Brand. Remember, Elton Brand was the co-rookie of the year for the Chicago Bulls back in the day there with Steve Francis, who shared that award with him. And look, Elton Brand was a terrific player, had some longevity, played with a ton of IQ. And I think that you see that here with Derik Queen. And so I'm not necessarily worried about what happened there at the NBA Draft Combine. I think that you see enough of him on tape and the upside is there. Now you get a chance to see him in an individual workout. We'll see what happens if the Bulls bring him in. But Derik Queen, his stock is falling here. And so let's see if this does fall into maybe what the Bulls are wanting to do. Because like I said before, if they're floating that they want Denham, that maybe is not what they want. They're just floating that out there so a player like Derik Queen can fall to them. And another player that I think is really starting to go up the draft board once again here is going to be Asa Newell. And so Asa Newell, another player that we have talked about here and a player that I definitely like. I love his motor. And so 6'10", 220, 15.4 points a game, 6.9 rebounds. He had a block. He had a steal. He shot 54.3 from the field and 29.2% from three. And so that lets you know, look, Asa Newell is a big man. And he's already got a better shooting percentage here than Egor Demin. And so, look, I like his upside as a shooter. He is a left-hander as well. But more importantly, he's a big man. And so I love that. When you look at his mechanics, it's certainly not broke. And I think that this is a player that would absolutely be a solid player for the Chicago Bulls if they were to take him. I've compared him to like a Jackson Hayes type of player, but with more upside, with his ability to knock down shots and things like that. And so it's good to see that he is going up the draft board. He is definitely a player that I would like to see with the Bulls because he does have I think terrific hands. And so that lets you know that, look, when they start throwing bullet passes and stuff like that out there, he can certainly handle those. And he has a pretty good handle too as well. And so I think that that's something that maybe might even be slightly right there or maybe a little bit better than Derik Queen. I mean, depending on how you look at that. But either or, I think that both of those players have solid handles to be bigs here. And so anyway, you guys let me know here what you are thinking about the draft buzz. Do you think that, look, a player like Asa Newell going up the draft board, you're excited about that? Do you want the Bulls to go in that direction? Next, what do you think here about Derik Queen and his draft stock falling? Do you think that this is the perfect scenario here for the Chicago Bulls? Because one of the things that I forgot to throw out there is that he is 6'10". And so I think he did measure that at the combine. And so he is a legit 6'10" type of player. So the height is there for Derik Queen, excuse me. He's definitely going to be a big man for you. And so let me know, do you think that this is, or if this is a good thing that he is falling here in the draft and could fall to the Chicago Bulls? And lastly, what do you think here about Egor Demin and the fact that he is right now reportedly number one on the Chicago Bulls draft board? Do you think that this would be a good move for the Chicago Bulls to take him at pick number 12? Do you think that this pairs well with Josh Giddey? Like I said before, they really have to have the ball in their hands here. And I think the real question for him is, could he play off ball? And he's also, too, I think, has to get a little bit quicker. But defensively, I liked his IQ level. That's one of the things that I did talk about there. So I think that his defensive effort and just working off ball, I think, was solid. Has to get a little bit better there in that area. But still, he's coming in looking pretty good here. So anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking here about this draft buzz. And as we always say, look, go Bulls. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.